Will you just raise your right hand?
Would you mind cutting those lights out, please?
Turn the lights off, Mr. Jones.
Pretty bad on the eye.
I agree to pay them 18 for one, or 20
Because
for one.
Because we were told to do so by Don Nelson.
Told to
Chairman
do
of
so
the
by
Board
Don
of
Nelson. Did anyone else tell you to do so?
No one else.
All right. Now, did you contact the President of the United States on or about February the 18th, 1944?
Are you reading from memorandum?
No, I'm reading from my own. I'm going to give you a memorandum.
Well, if you give
and
me
I
the
want to
date-
show you an exhibit.
Give me a date of my memorandum and I'll tell you.
Yeah. I show you Exhibit 34, dated February the 18th, 1944, a memorandum, and ask you to read that.
Yes, I've read it. You want to read it aloud?
Yes.
After cabinet.
And made this memorandum from your conversation with the President.
That's correct.
Will you tell me why, and tell the committee why, you went to the President in regards to the cancellation of this contract?
I didn't necessarily go to the President. I mentioned it to him, as I frequently did, matters that I didn't care to discuss in cabinet. After cabinet, I would have my visit with him. I knew of the President's interest in this plane.
Had you discussed this plane with the President prior to
It
that?
had been discussed.
It had been. Would you tell us the occasions and, as near as possible, give us the discussion?
I could not. I couldn't do that.
Did the President have anything to do with the making of this contract?
Not to my knowledge.
Did you have a conversation with him prior to the actual giving of the letters of intent about it?
No. That wasn't necessary because I had my orders from Don Nelson.
Don Nelson. But I'm wondering here.
Then, of course, he would stand to lose that because under the government contract, he would have no right to be
That's
to
correct.
recruit for that. In other words, by the action which you took, you actually saved the government the possibility of having to make good on the extra money, the $7 million.
I was naturally
Isn't
prompted.
that true?
Yes, as a businessman, I was prompted by the experience of it cost $12 or $13 million to get so far along, and much more time than had been contemplated. And knowing the situation with respect to critical materials and labor, I didn't want a continuing thing that might run double $13 million. And so I said to Mr. Hughes, if you insist upon doing this, as far as we're going to go, it'll be $18 million.
That was to be the ceiling.
For the one plane.
For the one plane. And he said, all right, I'll pay anything over that it costs myself. And that's the reason.
Yeah. All right. Then if he put the money in, he put it in knowing all about it. He knew that you wanted to cancel the contract.
That's right.
He knew that you had told him that if it cost more than that, he'd have to go at his own.
Yeah.
And it isn't that the government made a contract with him and now is not paying.
No. The contract, the government's paid all it's got agreed to pay.
Yes. And they've even the experience to be gained by completing one plane would be of too much value to throw away the money already expended, and that the contract should not be canceled. Is that correct?
That's what the letter said.
Yes. Now, did you convey that to Don Nelson? Because at the bottom you say, in your own handwriting, Mr. Nelson later authorized us to complete the prototype and DPC.
I'm reasonably sure that I did convey that to Mr. Nelson.
Proceeded as per letter of intent dated March 27, 44.
I'm reasonably sure that I did tell Mr. Nelson of this, of the President's thought on it.
All right. And then isn't it a fact that after you conveyed the President's desire to Mr. Nelson, you got the authorization to go ahead to complete the wooden plane, and it's dated, that contract is dated March the 27th, 44.
I think that's correct.
So that as far as Mr. Nelson was concerned, he had canceled it. You went to the President. You received this memorandum, or you made this memorandum after conversation.
That's
conveyed the idea to Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson then renewed the contract, that is, by reinstating it.
Correct.
That's correct.
Well, may I
Now,
ask-
was that on your...
On mine.
It was not on yours.
No, no.
May I ask this question, Mr. Jones? Under date of February 11th, 1944,
Little louder.
Mr. Nelson,
In relation to the building of a photo plane, which is described in these instrument documents here as F-11.
Nothing whatever.
Did you ever know that Hughes was building a small photo plane?
I did not.
Do you know a man by the name of Russell Birdwell in California, a public relations man?
Not to my knowledge. I don't remember him, but of course I saw a lot of people. I don't remember that fellow.
Or McIntyre?
I do not.
Do not. So at the present time, you appreciate what these are, but they don't refresh your memory. That's the...
They don't remind me of anything. They don't remind me of anything.
You said to Senator O'Connor, this was a transaction entered into in good faith on the part of the government, and you know no fraud or corruption that was connected with it.
None whatever.